What's up, everybody? This is Dr. Nick with Leverage Media, and today we're going to talk about the three most important metrics to track to be successful with Google Ads. So Google Ads are what I think is a staple for any chiropractor's online marketing strategy, and they can be a little bit different in terms of tracking the results than, say, Facebook ads. With Facebook ads, TikTok ads, Instagram, you're able to really drive people to a opt-in form where you can get a name, phone number, and email address. Then you can track that person through the sales cycle and see, did they sign up for care, did they not? With Google Ads, it can be a little bit more nebulous and harder to track things. So what you do want to focus on is, number one, is keeping track of who's coming to you from Google searches, whether they end up clicking on organic rankings or Google Ads. You can only track so many things with the Google Ads, but you want to kind of get an idea of how the entire Google presence is doing. So the three things that really matter that you can control and that you can track are, number one is click-through rate, number two is cost per click, and then number three is going to be conversions, which is going to really tell you what your ROI ends up being. So let's start at the top. So click-through rate is going to be the percentage of times that people are shown the ad and how often they click through. So people that do Google Ads will tell chiropractors that 2 to 4% click-through rates are kind of industry average, and that's normal, which is not normal. Like, if things are being done the right way, you can see click-through rates in the double digits. So you can see them 10, 11, 12% if you're in probably in more of a non-competitive area, but if things are structured the right way and bid strategy and all that. So click-through rate, you want to be tracking it. So every area is different, every office is different, every budget is different. So you want to make sure that you are looking at things relative to what you've done in the past. So if you've been doing Google Ads for, say, 12 months, go through month by month and see what has the click-through rate been like. Have there been any areas where it's risen? Have there been any drops? Why might that have been? Did more competitors come into the market? Did you have more budget one month? So look at what could be different and what could be driving that click-through rate. Now, on a couple of other things to keep in mind when you're thinking of click-through rate is, what is the if the copy on the ad itself looks very computer generated, then it's going to get less of a click-through rate than if you think through, what is somebody who is doing this search, what are they looking for, what would they like to hear, what would they like to see, and how can we make it seem as human as possible. Sometimes with Google Ads, they're just grabbing things that you've put into the ad campaign, but the more that you can work on the back end to specify what you want to show for specific keywords, that's going to really translate into a higher click-through rate if it can be more relevant to what they're searching for. So second is going to be cost per click. So this is where things are really important, because it depends on, if you have $1,000 that you're going to spend on Google Ads and your cost per click is $5, well, that means you can get 200 clicks out of that $1,000. If that same $1,000 is getting $20 cost per clicks, well, that means that you're going to only get 50 people that actually end up on the website or on the landing page. So watching that cost per click is super important, especially if your agency or if you are doing any sort of automatic bid strategy, to where if someone new comes into the market and they're just like, I'm willing to spend whatever it takes to get this specific keyword to click on my ad, and you've been spending, say $10 a click on, chiropractor near me for a long time, and somebody comes in and is like, I'm willing to spend 20. If you have automatic bid strategies set up, you're automatically going to start trying to compete at that $20 cost per click. And if you don't want to be spending that much on on a click, then you need to make sure that you have a strategy in place to where, if it goes past this, it shuts it down, or you have a bid cap on your ad campaign. So making sure that you are it's kind of a fine balance. You have to make sure that you are being as competitive as possible, so that the amount that you're willing to spend on that click is as high as it can be, so that it's still profitable for you, but still that we're trying to drive down the costs as much as possible. Two people in the same market can be spending different amounts on their cost per click, because if let's say chiropractor A has a super relevant website, people really like landing on it, they tend to convert, they don't hit back and go look at other ads or other offices, versus chiropractor B that just goes straight to a hardcore sales page, they have a high bounce rate, people aren't spending a lot of time on the website, that chiropractor B is going to have to spend more money per click than chiropractor A. So Google, the thing that it always comes down to is who's willing to spend the most money. It really is an auction on how much is someone willing to bid for that click. But Google wants things to be shown that are relevant. So it doesn't matter how much you're willing to spend. If your site is less relevant, you're always going to spend more than the person that is more relevant. So getting that relevancy factor high, it's something that they track within your Google ad campaigns. The higher that relevancy score can be, the cheaper your cost per clicks are going to be, so the more clicks you get for the dollars that you spend. The third thing that you really want to track is conversions, which is going to lead to giving you an idea of what your ROI is. So your conversions are going to be, what goal are you trying to get out of that click? I would imagine most of us are trying to track, appointments set or phone calls made. So those are usually the two metrics that chiropractors are really looking at when it comes to this this Google ad click turned into something that is going to be a person walking into my door, which hopefully turns into a care plan, which hopefully turns into, a lifetime patient. So because with Google Ads, you're not always able to see specifically who those people are, you kind of have to use some rough math. But if you're tracking conversions, if you're tracking conversions as effectively as you can be, those, it's going to be easier for you to calculate the ROI on the back end. So if you're spending, say, $1,000 on Google Ads, and your average cost per conversion, which would be an appointment made or a phone call to a tracking number that is set up with the Google Ads, let's say that that's at $100. So you get 10 people that you're kind of counting as Google leads. Now, Google leads are going to function different than Facebook leads in that the vast majority of the people that come through Google Ads are going to show up for their appointment. As long as you can get them in within, say, 24 to 48 hours. Google Ad people are not willing to wait for weeks at a time. So if you have a waiting list practice and you can't get somebody in for 3 weeks, Google Ads may not be the best bang for your buck. You're going to need to build more of a brand instead of people who are looking to do something right away. So assuming you can get them in 24 to 48 hours, you're probably going to get 80, 90% of those leads that make the appointment or call in and make the appointment to show up for their day one. Then I think that Google Ad people are probably going to function pretty similarly to whatever your average conversion rate, if you are doing care plans, whatever your average conversion rate is. So let's say it's 70%. If you spend $1,000, you've got $100, or you get 10 Google Ad leads out of that $1,000. That means $100 per lead. Let's say 80% of those people show up. So now you're at 8 of the 10 people that were leads showed up for day one, and then you're at about a 70% clip. Let's skew it just a little bit lower. So let's say you get 5 conversions out of the 10 leads that you got. So now you're at 5 conversions. Let's say your care plan is $1,500. Or let's say your lifetime value is $1,500, because I always like to use that instead of just what the first care plan is. But let's say your average lifetime value is $1,500. You've got 5 conversions, that would be $7,500. You go back and you spend $1,000 on your Google Ads. That gives you about a 7.5 to 1 return on investment. So obviously if you're doing that, that's great. Those are pretty realistic numbers. I think that I was a little bit conservative on some of them, so it could be even higher than that. So this is why I think that Google Ads is a strong strategy for most chiropractors. But just remember, click-through rate is really going to matter in terms of, you're not going to spend the money until they click on it, but you want to spend as much as they're willing to take, because the more clicks you get, the more people you get to the website. Cost per click, obviously you want to get those clicks as cheap as possible, but you got to be willing to bid aggressively to show up at the top of the page. And then 3, make sure that you're tracking those conversions properly so that you can calculate your ROI on the back end. So hopefully that helps if you have been thinking about doing Google Ads, or if you're doing them now and you're trying to fine tune. Hopefully that helps, and we'll see you on the next one.